With training camp right around the corner for the Toronto Raptors, I thought I would try to put together a quick little list of one skill for each player that I really want to see them improve on for next year, and what I believe they can improve on the most, realistically. For Fred, I think the easiest is his shot selection. I think at the start of the year, he had a really large offensive load to carry with Pascal out and Gary Trent Jr. kind of fitting into the system a little bit more, Scotty ramping up. And I think he fell in love with those early threes off the break, and those contested twos at times. And I just remember a lot of last year, especially in the last half of the season, watching Fred play. And he would just take these really poor, bad shots. And yes, he can make them. Yes, he's an amazing shooter, but it just sometimes it wasn't needed, and it would kind of kill the offensive flow for the rest of the team. And you could see the guys out there just kind of being like, oh, like looking frustrated after these shots going up and up and up and not getting the ball. So I think if he can just improve on his shot selection a little bit, look to play make a little bit more for the others, or just kind of grind it out. Like, he has enough room and a bag, and he's a good shooter that he can just grind it out and get better looks for himself. He doesn't need to take these early contested threes or these tough twos. I think he needs to cut those out, and I think he can be a lot better. For Pascal, I think Pascal kind of just needs to stay what he was last year. I think he was amazing to end the season. I think he deserved his All-NBA, of course. I think he can do it, get it again if he just has the same type of season. Maybe he has to improve his scoring just a little bit, which I think he can. I think he had a really good mid-range shooting season. Okay, three-point shooting season, and I think that's the area that we always want Pascal to improve on, his three-point shot, and I think he can do it. I think he's constantly working on it. But if Pascal can just be healthy to start the season and keep up that play throughout the whole season, I don't see really any complaints with his game. For Gary Trent Jr., I'm stuck between either his rim finishing or playmaking again. I think his rim finishing is something that is easier to improve if he can just get a little more crafty and consistent. I think he has the ability to get to the rim. Even though he's not the best athlete, I still think he can get to the rim at a pretty good rate. He just blows those shots a lot, and he doesn't really have as much control once he gets into the air at the rim. And I think he can really improve on that. And I think if he does, he's going to be a complete three-level scorer who is one of the best shooters in the league. And I think with that, paired with Fred and Pascal, it's going to be a nightmare to kind of guard. Very difficult to predict who's going to go off at any one night. I think OG just needs to work on staying healthy. I mean, it's easier said than done, of course, and a lot of stuff goes into health. And it's not like OG gets bad injuries. He just gets a lot of knick-knack injuries, and I think that's due to the way he plays, especially when he's driving. He just looks a little uncoordinated out there, kind of just like he's flailing a little bit. And I think if he can just work on his body control and his body coordination, his health would go up a lot more. And I think with just more consistency from him, especially just in the lineup with the guys, I think we can see OG have one of the better seasons of his career. He's the prototypical 3-and-D guy who can do a little bit more on offense. I think any team would want him. And I see some trade rumors about OG, or if he's unsatisfied, and I think that's just kind of other teams wanting to get him. So they're just putting that out there to fluff it up. I don't see the Raptors ever trading OG. I think the only reason why you would trade OG is if you could package him with picks or another guy and go trade for a star level player. I think he's just too valuable to trade for a lateral piece, unless their perfect big man was out there. But I just don't think they're the perfect five for this team in the league that we could trade for or would want to trade for. Next is Scotty Barnes. I think Scotty Barnes just needs to work on either his playmaking or his shooting. I think the playmaking is more easier for him to control. I think he's a good playmaker. I think he has the talent for it. I think he has the vision for it. I think sometimes he just gets a little overzealous and tries to make the tough pass when it's not always needed. Sometimes the simple pass is the best pass, and I think he falls in love with the difficult and tough pass moves. I think he can really work on that, and I think if he, Pascal, and Fred are all able to be the playmakers they were last year, with just slightly better, I think that would really help all three of them play less minutes. Nick Nurse could stagger those guys, let them run the bench unit a little bit more. You could have Fred and Pascal out there, Pascal and Scotty and Fred, and then any other combination of our guys like Gary Trent Jr., OG, Thad, Boucher, Precious. I think as long as we have 1 to 2 of those guys out there, the other 3 are good enough finishers and have the ability to self-create, and Gary Trent Jr., OG, Thad a little bit, Precious a little bit, that the offense can stay afloat without sacrificing our defense at all. With Precious, I'm really, really high on Precious. I think he could be the 6th man of the year if he's coming off the bench for us. I've made a couple of videos about him before. I think Precious just needs to kind of work on his rim finishing. He is one of the worst rim finishing bigs in the league, which is pretty sad to say, because he does seem like he has the athletic ability to get to the rim and jump on people and dunk on people. It just seems like either he doesn't have the full control of his body when he's going that fast, or something that just kind of leads to him whiffing. He just doesn't have very soft touch around the rim. It seems like he's kind of throwing bricks at the rim sometimes. And so I think if he can just improve on that touch, improve on his body control down low and when going fast, I think Precious has a very, very clear chance of being the 6th man of the year. He's one of the better defensive bigs on the interior and a really solid perimeter defender too. I think that's what we need from him, and that's what he's going to give us. Thad, I don't think Thad's going to improve on anything. Hopefully he just doesn't fall off a cliff and he stays the same. Boucher looks really, really good in those Rico runs. His finishing looks good. He looks a lot bigger and stronger. And as long as, to start this season, his shooting touch is there and he has a little bit more improved rim finishing, I think Boucher is going to be a really, really solid rotational guy for us. And I think he's going to really improve the bench for this team that was so bad to start the year last year. Flynn, I really just hope Flynn can be a rotational guard to get the minutes off of Fred, to let his knees rest a little bit. Hopefully Flynn or Banton can kind of step into that role, or Nick sees them as viable options, at least in the rotation, and maybe give Fred some space. But I don't really know what I'm expecting from them, and I don't know what to expect from them. But yeah, that's everything I hope for these Raptors going forward. And if you like the video, subscribe or like, that'd be really appreciated.